Thanks for coming to 1500ESPN.com. Judd, Zulgad, Jess Myers. XL Energy Center is the venue. Jess, the beat just goes on and goes on. The Wild 4-2 victors over Calgary tonight. They open a tough 5-game homestand. But I think the question going into tonight's game was, can the Wild distance themselves from Calgary? And now the question is, after the Chicago Blackhawks lost tonight on Friday night to Columbus, can the Wild actually make a run at catching third place Chicago? Any way you crack this up, Jess, this is certainly not what we expected in mid-January when the Wild threw a Hail Mary pass and got Devan Dubnyk, and we all thought, now you're really desperate and you had to make this move.
You know, and they were dead in the water at that point, let's be honest. Right now, they're in a spot where they're going to make the playoffs. I mean, it's obvious after a game like tonight, especially when they put some distance between themselves and a team like Calgary. Right. Your partner, Phil Mackey, said it I think it was today, he said, I'm starting to worry about this team when you look at the schedule. This is a tough stretch.
Oh, yeah.
Granted, it's their last home series of the year. They play the next 5 in a row at home, and it's a nice schedule. They've got them back-to-back tonight and tomorrow night, but then they get a few days off. They don't play again until Thursday, so a chance to rest a little bit. You know, we've talked a little bit about Devan Dubnyk. How long can he keep this up? 32 starts or 33 starts in a row now.
Keep it going.
Yeah, absolutely. So a nice stretch for them, and this was an important win, and especially kind of a character win because completely outplayed Calgary, especially in that second period, could not score. And it's one of those games where if you're not on your game, you can start to take risks and get frustrated. They just kept plugging away, kept doing what they were doing, got inspired by a big hit. You know, Justin Fontaine looked like he was going to be out, looked like he was hurt. Comes back a minute later after what everybody said was a dirty play, and he sets up the go-ahead goal. You know, just a dramatic moment for this team.
Joe Colburn threw the hit, which was a blindside hit to a certain degree. It wasn't the cheapest hit you'll see, but it certainly inspired this Wild team. But you brought up a point that I saw, which is there was a time back in late January where the Calgary Flames were clear of the Wild. The Wild was dead. And you watched tonight's game, and what struck me was, although it was close, it was 1-1 through 2 periods, Jess, these teams weren't that close. I mean, I guess the thing that I'm trying to get my head around completely at this point is how good is this Wild team with good goaltending? Because 10 games into the season, they were 7-3. And I thought to myself, this is a really good hockey team. And then the goaltending went south, and guys started to not cash it in, but guys weren't playing as hard, and you said to yourself, okay, I misjudged this team, but now that the components are coming together and it's springtime and the playoffs are coming, how good is this team?
Even a couple weeks ago, there was that weird stretch where they were losing games at home, close games that they shouldn't lose.
Right.
This team has got a ton of confidence right now. I mean, that's one thing that really struck me talking to Zach Parise tonight, talking to Thomas Vanek tonight, and I can't say enough about Vanek right now. I mean, we were so down on him. You and I were. We can admit it.
Rightfully so, though.
Thanksgiving, he had one goal,
right,
and he just said, you know, I stayed positive, I stuck with it. Parise obviously praised him tonight, and the one thing Parise said was, you underestimate how much switching teams throws you off your game. Granted, you know, Vanek knew he was coming here in the summer. He had some time to get used to it, but it throws you off. You know, everything's new, everything's different. And now, you know, look, 7 goals in the last 10 games. This is the Thomas Vanek I think everybody expected. You know, he's not young, he doesn't have this foot speed, but he's a goal scorer. And then we also have to praise Parise, I think. 30 goals, 4th time in franchise history they've gotten 30 goals. True to his humble nature, he says, nah, I didn't keep the puck or anything. We said, you know, only the 4th time in franchise history. He said, franchise hasn't been around that long. You know, he downplays it.
Right.
But, you know, 50 goals between he and Vanek, that's an accomplishment.
Vanek is an interesting case to me. Let me offer this theory up and either shoot it down or give me your thoughts on this. Mike Yeo likes to ordinarily juggle lines.
Yes.
And I get that. In the NHL in 2015, you juggle lines. I, however, think that one of the main benefits for Vanek in recent weeks has been when they finally put him on the 3rd line. Because if you recall, he went 1st line, 2nd line, got dropped.
Right.
And he's on the 3rd line now with Coyle and Fontaine. And I think it benefits him in a huge way because I saw plays again tonight where Coyle knows where Vanek's going to be. And Vanek takes these circuitous sort of weird routes to pucks.
Right.
And if he's playing with a different center every game, I'm not sure that Granlund, who has this quick passing ability, he's fantastic when he's good, but Granlund expects you to be in certain places. It's almost like Coyle has figured it out and says, okay, here's where I think Thomas Vanek is going to be. I think there's something to be said for Vanek in having the continuity of Coyle and Fontaine are my line mates. Do you agree with that?
He's comfortable. I mean, that's so
And he
important
never
for
looked
him.
comfortable.
No, he never looked comfortable.
He was
looked out
slow
of
and
place.
uncomfortable, and now he's slow and comfortable.
You know, but the thing is, he said he just stayed positive, and he said after Christmas he started to feel it. Now he's where he belongs. He knows that, you know, and that's on and off the ice. Obviously, he likes being here. He likes being back in Minnesota.
Sure.
You know, people are razzing him a little bit tonight about the Gophers. He likes that. He said, you know, he joked. He said,
People were razzing him. You were razzing him.
I was razzing him a
Why don't
little
you admit
bit,
what you did, Mr. Bulldog?
I just asked him, and I think the irony here is so perfectly thick. You know,
because you're happy.
UMD beats Minnesota tonight in the NCAA playoffs, and the go-ahead goal, the dramatic goal tonight, is a Bulldog feeding the puck to a Gopher. You know,
dramatic goal here,
and they turn everything around. Now, here's the irony. You talk about that line, Vanek, Coyle, and Fontaine together. Yeah. Coyle's a Boston University guy. The Bulldogs play Boston University now on Saturday. Winner goes to the Frozen Four. So Fontaine admitted, there might be a little friendly rivalry there between, or maybe a wager between he and Charlie Coyle tomorrow.
You trolled him.
I didn't troll him.
You trolled him. I saw it in the locker room.
You know, we talked about it.
Trolling is fun. I'm not denying, but you trolled Thomas Vanek in the locker room.
We talked all week about how Fontaine was alone among all these Gophers in the locker room. Well, tonight he finally gets to gloat a little bit. He said so. Good for him.
Thank you, Jess.
Good to talk.
Appreciate that. 4-2 Wild beats Calgary. As we talked about, this is Friday night. The Wild will continue its 5-game homestand against the Kings on Saturday, but they certainly remain a red-hot hockey team. He's Jess Myers. I am Judd Zulgad. Thanks for coming to 1500ESPN.com. Next thing you're going to see is my finger shutting this thing off, and no, I don't edit it post. Bye.